Before I started making chairs, I had this dream of working at home in a small shop behind the house by myself and being able to make enough money to feed the family. And I didn't realize it, but as the years went on and I had decisions to be made, like when my business got more than what I could handle, am I going to hire somebody, or other questions like that, I would go back to this and I would say, is this still pertinent? Is this still something that I want? And it enabled me to, I feel, make a better decision on the direction that I wanted to go. And it always turned out to be, yes, that still is what I want. Certainly there was a lot of very fine furniture made in the 18th century. And design-wise, I don't know that we'll ever touch those beautiful designs and furniture that were done in the 18th century. Maybe so, maybe not. I think time will tell on that. But technically wise, in my opinion, the best craftsmen ever in the history of time are alive right now working in the United States. And this seems to be something that is not known by the general population, that this incredibly fine work is being done out there, and a lot of people making a living at it. I feel comfortable being a woodworker, a chair maker, a craftsman. That's what suits me.
Looking back, it all seems so simple now. Coming out of college, Curtis Buchanan knew he didn't want to be part of the mainstream machine. He sought a different kind of life. Eventually, Curtis and his family found their way to Jonesboro, Tennessee, a timeless town straight out of a Norman Rockwell painting. Curtis built a workshop behind his house and started making chairs using only the hand tools that he loved. Eventually, he found a market and built a business. Curtis is also one of the co-founders of the Greenwood Project in Central America, an organization dedicated to teaching villagers how to make chairs out of abundant native woods. By giving the trees value, it not only provides an income source for the villagers, but it also makes the forest more valuable overall and less likely to be burned. Curtis has traveled extensively in the region, working with residents, teaching them chair-making techniques.
There's chairs all over the place. You can drive by a little pulperia, a little store where they're sitting out front playing cards, and they're sitting in chairs made by my students. It's just wonderful.
Over the years, he broadened his horizons to include growing organic Christmas trees without pesticides and chemicals.
Dad and I have grown Christmas trees up there for, this is the 30th year. About the early 90s, I planted the first crop of what would soon become the first certified organic Christmas trees in the nation. It's given me the opportunity to farm on land that's been in the family for a long time. It's to stand on those same fields and look at those same mountains that my relatives have done for a long time.
These days, Curtis spends most of his time working in the shop behind his house. It seems like a long way from his earliest days as a beginning chairmaker, when his wife brought to his attention two very basic problems with his business plan.
Marilyn reminded me that One, I didn't know how to make a chair, and two, I didn't know anybody that paid that much money for a chair. Got a draw knife, I built a shaving horse, and started splitting out wood and whittling wood, but I still couldn't figure out how in the world you could make a living with this. What could you possibly make that you could sell for enough money to justify all the time that you put into it working with these tools? And in about the next year, I guess it was, '83, I ran into Dave Sawyer just by chance. And he was making Windsor chairs. He'd used to make ladderback chairs. He's from Vermont. And that was the connection that I needed, that these chairs are made with these tools. And I just took off from that moment. We rode each other for the next year or so. He tried to help troubleshoot some of my problems I was having. Went up there and stayed with Dave for 4 days. The difference was night and day. It was like every 10 minutes, it was an epiphany. He was straightening things out for me. And there was no comparison in the quality they were going to be after spending that week with Dave. I worked for months in my shop by myself, trying to get some decent looking chairs. Finally, I sort of pieced together 4 chairs that were pretty rugged, but they were as good as I was going to get right then, and I had to try to sell something. And I paid $50 to go sit in a mall for 3 days. All through the show, not one thing, not one thing. It gets pretty depressing sitting there when you really need to sell. And I was packing up on Sunday night, and a couple walked by and ordered 6 chairs, gave me a down payment. So by the time I got home, it was late. And I pulled out that check, about a $500 check, I think, and I said, "Look at this." I sold some chairs. And oh God, it was a great moment. Of course, that's not where the struggle ended, but it was the start. I sold some chairs, and I could keep going with it. When I first discovered Windsors, I thought, wow, here's a good-looking piece of furniture. It's complicated, difficult, so it can keep you challenged for many, many years, and you get to use these tools. And Windsors would give me an opportunity to hone my skills on a specific piece of furniture without having to learn everything about every piece of furniture. I felt it would give me an opportunity to market myself as chairmaker. If you want a chair, I'll make you a chair. If you want a table, you go to somebody else. And so I would be easier to sell this product instead of just saying, well, I'll make anything you want. But what I found after about 10 years is that the chairs were never ending. I would never grow tired of building these chairs. You really go into a state of flow that's almost like a meditative state. You can't let your mind wander, because at any moment you can make a mistake, because the skill required to do it is very high. Not so high to where a mistake is imminent, but high enough to where your concentration has to remain right on your work constantly. And it produces this really calm effect, this flow effect. And the feeling that we get from it is almost indescribable. And it is so good that we're willing to work very hard to get it. How could you possibly make your 1000th one and still enjoy it? and you enjoy it because this level of flow that you're able to obtain because of this repetitious practice that you've had. And when I'm building a chair like a continuous arm that I've made so many of, that's where I can still not just enjoy making it, but love making it. My personality lines up with this flow, with this repetition. I like to leave a surface on my chairs that's warm, that hasn't been sterilized. And this incredible surface that it leaves, that reflects the light, that's warm to touch. And when somebody's sitting in the chair and their hand automatically goes to the bevel on the bottom of the seat, and they feel that, it's a nice little warmth that's there, not only visually but tactily. You don't want to leave a crude finish that hits you in the face, kind of like screaming, "I'm handmade, look at me." It's got to be much more subtle than that. It was the tools first. It was the tools that I discovered. I wanted to make a living with the draw knife so bad. I just loved the tool. I loved picking it up. I loved its sound. I loved the combination of it with the shaving horse. So I wanted to work with those tools. So it was, okay, what can I make with these tools that I'll be able to sell? I like to look at it. I like to sit in them. I like for people to admire them and tell me how nice they are. But none of that comes even close to sitting in my shop on the shaving horse. Not even close. I've always viewed myself as a craftsman. A craftsman that is a production craftsman. So I produce the same thing over and over and over again, repetition. Now, it might not be the same chair, and I do design new chairs, but I like turning the same leg over and over and just perfecting that. It would be similar to, I think, a production blacksmith hammering out a gate. His blows are so practiced through this repetition for years and years that the piece, if it took 1,000 strikes to produce the piece, it would not be the same piece with 999, because every blow means something. It was sort of natural for me to start working with wood. I guess because I wasn't brought up with the knowledge that people were blacksmiths and that people were making clay. And as I started then doing woodwork and getting involved in some organizations and getting around these people, I saw that there's this whole world out there. And one thing that you find out, and this is what a lot of people outside of this realm don't know, I think the best woodwork is being done. The best metal work, the best clay work is getting done. I think it has a lot to do with the baby boomers in the 60s. I think it has a lot to do with affluency. The money is there to pay us to keep producing the finest work that we can possibly produce. All through college, I picked up work here and there, and it was usually carpenter. That just seemed like the easiest thing. I had a hammer, and there was always some professor at school that had a few slums that he rented to students, and they needed work on it, so I was always picking up work like that. I just wanted to work for myself. I didn't think I could possibly work for anybody else. And I just really wanted to try to make a living at home. So until I ran across something, I was just going to keep the carpenter work, because that would keep me from getting locked in to a good paying job that had benefits, that gets its claws into you, that you can't leave. And so I've had the success there that I've had because I've got this work, this large part of my life that I do have complete control over, and I don't have to compromise. I think that's evident in the way that I then limit tools that come into my shop. I limit production. I limit the amount of hours that I work in my shop. So there's a whole lot of these rules that I'm able to set just totally by myself without really considering anybody else. I guess I just don't like to be tied. I guess that's what it just boils down to. And employees can tie you just like an employer can. It's a responsibility. I was reading about Windsors, and I'd read that somebody had termed them utilitarian sculpture. And I guess that's true. And even the contemporary chairs that I make, they're still Windsor chairs. They still have the lines of 18th century Windsor chairs. There's new chairs to build, new chairs to design, but even the old chairs are fun to build. I enjoy the continuous arm that I've built 200 of. I still enjoy making that chair. And I can almost make it on automatic pilot, but that's fun. And then the other end of the extreme is designing a new piece, which is challenging and fun and works a different part of your brain, I guess. So I get both of that combination. I'm not coming up with anything new. I'm just sort of giving my interpretation of it, is all. I don't have a radio in my shop. I like to listen to the sounds of my town. I like the courthouse clock donging. I like the train that comes through. I like knowing that the garbage truck is passing by. I know the sound of each one of my neighbors' cars. I know the crunch on their gravel in their driveway. And those are comforting sounds to me. I like those through my day. I like the nice, quiet, simple way that it is. In the early years of making chairs was around this unified design and only the lines, only looking at the wood as this functional medium to work with. What I'm usually dealing with, what I'm usually spending my time on is aesthetics, is the lines of the chair. On my traditional pieces, they're all painted usually a dark color. And when you paint something like that, especially a dark color, the only thing that you have to look at then is the lines of the chair. If you fail there, you don't have the wood grain to pull you through. You don't have a big, beautiful slab of burl walnut for a table that the design could be flat, but yet the beautiful wood could carry it. You don't have that. It's got to be designed right. It's got to have graceful lines. It's got to flow. I like being a craftsman, and that's the way I view myself.